You're listening to the Everything Went Black podcast.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Everything Went Black podcast. You know, every few months I end up watching Event Horizon. I have this unusual obsession with that film. These days, though, there's a comic book prequel that's available, as well as a sequel to that film, a comic book sequel, that is, that's about to come out. So attention has been put on Event Horizon recently. So Karl and I have been talking about doing this for a while, and so this is the week that you get to hear our discussion of Event Horizon and the associated comic book prequel. If you're listening to this podcast, then I urge you all to check out the other podcasts by the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Kicking everything off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. And Brandon and I are also doing our collaboration called The Black Lodge, where we talk about Twin Peaks. Up next on Tuesdays, we have Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere. Wednesday, of course, is Everything Went Black, as well as Iblis Manifestations. Thursday, Necro Thursday, is the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast, as well as Day 1 of Soul Knocks, which is Karl's podcast. Friday, Spitball Media comes at you. Saturday is a day off, and Sunday is Day 2 of Soul Knocks. Karl and I are deep into our Darkness Weaves collaboration. We're going to be wrapping that up fairly soon. And it's been a lot of fun talking about Karl Edward Wagner. I'd like to thank everyone who listens on a regular basis to this show. But if you want to step up to the Everything Went Black Patreon, for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to bonus material. For $5 a month, you can get bonus material plus early access to the shows. And for $25 a month, you can become a sponsor. It's funny, I've been so obsessed with Event Horizon ever since I saw the movie back in like 1997 or whatever the hell it came out.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those things where I just don't feel like it's ever like there's just always a story there. You know, the more times you watch it, it just seems like it uncovers more and more things.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie that's got a lot of layers to it. I think partly because a lot of it's told just through the movie itself. Like there's not a lot of like in the ideas of the movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah. When did you first see it? Did you see it on like video or, you know?
Pretty sure my dad and I saw it in the theater when it came out, so in 97 or whatever.
Yeah.
So and then seen it tons of times ever since, you know. Had it on VHS and then DVD and now the new Blu-ray that came out a couple years ago. So
I have a couple versions on DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just recently picked up the one that you you showed to me, and because that has like all the different that extras and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the old DVD doesn't have pretty much anything on it. Just
No.
like I think there's like a little 5-minute like making of thing or something like that maybe, but the new 4K / Blu-ray version of it has a whole big long documentary that's like almost as long as the movie, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty long, and it covers a lot of ground, and it kind of goes into some of the details and behind the scenes stuff, and that was a really cool version, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the movie, the script, I don't think it had been floating around for too long, if I remember correctly from watching the footage, but it eventually went to Paul W. Anderson for it because of Mortal Kombat, which is kind of funny. He was like, so it was so successful that they're like sending him stuff, and he said that he really wanted to do a science fiction R-rated horror movie. Like that's what he wanted to do, and he didn't want to do like a Mortal Kombat sequel, or they offered him X-Men and stuff.
Oh
That's
yeah,
when,
that's right. Yeah, they
yeah,
started talking about X-Men like way back then.
yeah. And because well, the first X-Men movie came out like '99, I think, so it's pretty
Yeah.
soon after. Um, so yeah, so Paramount sent him the script for Event Horizon, which they've been trying to develop for a while, and luckily Anderson read it and he really lo loved it. Although the original version of the script was actually a little bit different because it was like there were aliens instead
Yeah.
of like, so he kind of was one who came up with the idea of kind of an interdimensional like kind of hell, chaos thing instead of aliens basically.
And this kind of ties into what's there. So okay, so IDW did a prequel comic, a 5-issue miniseries. And I guess probably any day now, the sequel miniseries is going to be coming out called Inferno.
Yeah.
So the prequel is called Dark Descent. Then there's the stuff that happens in the movie, and then there's a sequel called Inferno. Now, as much as I love Event Horizon, I do not think that it warrants a universe. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I was kind of excited to read the comic when it first came out when I got the first issue and it seemed pretty promising. But I mean, I have to say that I don't think the comic series is all that good.
Yeah.
Um like the way I don't think they quite understood a lot of the ideas of the movie, you know? Like and they made it very like basic in my opinion. Like they tried like I was hoping that what they would do is they would follow the kind of events of the ship before, when it went into this chaos dimension or whatever, and then like maybe delve into some of these kind of ideas of chaos and otherworldly dimensions and things like this. But it doesn't really. It basically kind of takes on a very like generic like hell type of thing, and I don't know. I just didn't think that it was very good. Because I think the genius of the movie is that it's never, you know, Anderson wanted to tap into the idea of hell, but he didn't want it to be like traditional ideas of hell. You know what I mean? Like it was like this, he wanted it to be like this thing the ship went into this kind of chaos, realm of chaos essentially, and the ship itself became possessed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, definitely. Um, and what's interesting too is that the comic book series dove straight into what Anderson wanted to avoid. You know, I mean, he was like the original script had aliens in it. Okay. And Anderson wanted to avoid that. So he pursued this like weirder, cosmic horror element to it. And lo and behold, we read the sequel, and I mean, you get Paimon.
Well, they say that that's what the captain like knows. I don't know why they picked that name because I mean the captain would just know him as Satan. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
exactly. Like,
if he's going to be overlaying a Christian thing on them, I don't really sure why they picked that name. You
well,
know what
well,
I mean?
that's what I was gonna say. Because I mean, the captain, kill, what the hell is his name? Kill Pack
Yeah,
is a Christian. So, there's all this like Latin, Christian overtones and everything.
yeah. I think supposed to be Catholic.
Yeah, Catholic. And so Paimon is not part of the Catholic mythology. However, what I'm trying to say though is that you get what's being called an entity is called Paimon, but you're essentially getting aliens on the spaceship now, which is like completely against what makes the film so great. Like the points you were touching on, where it's more about chaos and different dimensions and stuff.
Yeah, like I think that the problem is that they made like an embodied like figure, and I don't really think that was the point of the movie because the thing in the movie is that there is some type of like alien consciousness or something that I think inspired what's his name to create the Event Horizon, you know?
Yeah.
I do think that there is something with that going on, but I don't think it's like an embodied entity like doing all this stuff to people. I think it's like something weirder, like in the sense of like we said, like the ship itself has a consciousness. That's why he was saying that when they do the reading of the ship, there's like life forms from beginning all over it, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Like in the film that they get life form readings for the ship. Yeah. So that leads them to believe that there might be some crew that survived.
yeah, but the way that the life form reading is, when you look at it, it looks like the whole ship is living. You
Right.
know, the
Yeah.
ship's like transformed from inorganic matter to some type of weirder um entity. It's like alive, right? For kind of infused with this like chaos energy or something. You know what I mean?
One of the things that I did like about the comic book series is that it started with Dr. Weir and Claire, his wife, and that when I first read the comic series, the prequel, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool because you know, the embodiment or this projection of his dead wife was motivating him to dig into this like science that would create, the drive that would power the ship into this other dimension, basically. And the fact that his it's not actually Claire, it's like some embodiment of her. It's like some representation of her that's being used to manipulate him to create this this sort of like arcane piece of technology.
Right. Yeah, and I thought that. See, that's the thing. Like in the movie, we don't know, and the ship seems to have like a consciousness. Like it seems to react to their actions and things like that, right? But I think the misstep in the comic book was like embodying that into like some physical entity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I prefer it being like something that you can't really understand. That's like
Well,
beyond our awareness. Kind of like with The Shining. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that and or Prince of Darkness too, which is like what um I was hoping. Yeah, I was hoping this prequel would sort of have a vibe like Prince of Darkness, where it's people reacting and being transformed to being exposed to this malevolent force. Which in Prince of Darkness, it's you know
Yeah, it's a like weird slime thing. Yeah.
it's a slime thing, but it's like it's I'm not even convinced it's actually Satan. It's like some other dimensional being that the Christian point of view is assigning it the value of Satan. And that's kind of like what originally when I was first reading that first issue, I was like, wow, this is like kind of maybe going in that direction where Weir is getting this like secret knowledge that's informing him to create this drive that will bend space and time and send the event horizon into this realm of chaos, and then the ship itself comes back with this like malevolent vibration, this like entity like sort of attached to it.
Right. Yeah, but I think like what I like about it is that it's not really what makes the movie really work for me is that um it's not embodied in any way. It's like this kind of something unknowable, you know what I mean? That's what makes the movie creepy, and is that like it's almost like the people's reactions to the ship and like what they see is all kind of like just the operation of the force of the whatever is impregnating the ship, the way it's operating on them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's not like, I think like making like an entity that's like speaking to them like in the comic book, I think was a big mistake because it just kind of makes it kind of goofy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was a total failure, honestly. And it's for it to remain amorphous, and it's influencing people to do these things. And you and I have talked about this before, where it's like even like in some of the other discussions we've had, even regarding like Wagner's Kane and characters like that, where the this other dimension is just not meant for humans. So humans go to this other dimension and then they react with madness. It's like a very Lovecraftian sort of concept of your mind being destroyed because of the unknowableness of this other dimension. And of course, that's my impression of what happened to the crew originally, which I thought they were going to actually tell this, the story of, like, they didn't really follow the lore of the movie, and which is far superior than what they created in the comic book series. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to see this crew go into hell and, or to this dimension, you know, and
Yeah.
their actual, them changing, like even their physical forms changing. And that is what I was hoping to see instead of what we got.
Me too, yeah. And just showing them like the descent into madness that leads up to like the whole the little clip that we all you see in the movie for 30 seconds, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Like I was hoping that we would see what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say Anderson, so apparently they shot all that stuff on the weekends. Like that guy worked like 7 days a week on making this film, and like he had a second unit to shoot all the the Realm of Chaos footage, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean it's like the what little you see is so fucked up, like and it makes me real bummed that like a lot of that footage seems to be just missing that we'll never get to, because I'd like to at least see more of it, because they put so much time and effort into it, like I think the I think it works okay in the movie that you get the little clips. I do wish that we saw more. I wish it was a little bit longer. Like we only get like 30 seconds or something, but I wish it was like a minute, of
Yeah,
seeing like stuff.
I agree with that. I've always wanted. That's always been like this weird like holy grail with the film. I remember like I don't know, like 10 or maybe 15 years ago. I want to say Arrow put out a version of this film, which I
Y-
bought.
Yeah.
And I remember hoping that I remember reading something online about how, this is going to have like as an extra some of the, that footage. So I was like, oh yeah, I got to get this thing. So I pre-ordered it right away. And then like it shows up a few months later and I'm like, where's the footage? And apparently it doesn't exist anymore.
At least they can't find it. They haven't been able to track it down yet. So,
Yeah.
um, apparently Paramount didn't take very good care of their vault footage. But the thing about that kind of stuff is it could show up sometime. Maybe somebody had like you know, something that happens a lot is they might do um like a not like a less good like a kind
Like
of
a low
assembly.
res, yeah, like a low res version of it or something like that.
Yeah, like all right, like VHS or something, like that kind of stuff happens all the time where somebody just sudden like somebody who worked on a movie was like, "Oh, I found this like VHS, they popped it in and it was like this lost footage." The footage might not be good enough to put it back in the movie to make a director's cut or something, but it at least could be like visible, Who knows? It might be there out there somewhere, but I mean it's been uh fuck, it's been what, like 30 almost 30 years since the movie came out next year, so like,
Yeah.
it becomes less and less likely, but you never know.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what hooked me with the comic book series, like the inclusion of Dr. Weir. Um, I don't think in the film you really get to know any of the crew except for Killpack is obviously the guy who, Liberate Tutame, that dude who originally they thought it was Liberate Me, which I don't know Latin, but they say that means save me, but then it was like
We'll take Liberate Me, yeah.
liberate me. But
Uh
misheard it initially. It's like save yourself, like from hell, X and Ferris.
yeah. Yeah, and he's like the only named crew member. So all the other crew members that's in the comic book are all, made up, I think, by DW. ADW. it is disappointing because I do wish that the comic book was better, like that it ended up being like I don't know, particularly like I read it right after literally like the same night as watching the movie, and I was like, man, this really sucks.
Yeah.
Because like it doesn't tap into any of the feelings that I had watching the movie this last time. Because the last time watching the movie, it really struck me the feeling of dread of just like imagine you're like, you know, they come up on this ship that's like been floating, it's been missing for 7 years, and they have to go explore it. And the ship itself is really creepy. They designed it to look like Notre Dame,
Yeah.
all these Gothic arches and stuff. I don't know. Just imagine like wandering through this fucking abandoned, this like ghost ship, like out in the middle of space, like um, and like what that would be like, and then you have this like entity there, that's like, or the ship itself is the entity, however it is, but just the whole feeling of cosmic horror really actually affected me more watching this time than even I don't know, like for some reason just hit me.
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like the movie had like this Lovecraftian element too. And as well, but the thing that also more recent viewings of the movie, I focused a little bit on the drive because and I don't know if this is intentional or not, but the drive in some ways resembles the descriptions of like the Elohim, like those like Old Testament angels with like many eyes and that don't have like human forms, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was wondering if like that was some they don't mention it anywhere, but I feel like that was like definitely not an accident.
I don't think so. Yeah, and then just the whole way the drive looks, like that whole room, like you just think about people like building that, like and we're designing it, and it's like he's channeling it from some other. I think he channeled how to develop this drive from some other place, right? I mean, he's obviously been in connection with this dimension of chaos, even without knowing it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's like connected to my ideas about the drive being like almost like a captured like fallen angel or something like that, or because usually when the lore of most horror films, like the lore of lore, not lore of most horror films is that someone who's in like an emotionally compromised or low state is falls victim to these like malevolent entities, these malevolent forces. So Weir, having gone through his wife committing suicide and being haunted by that, was at, probably like a very, very low emotional state.
Well,
And
and
yeah, I'm
and
sorry.
he was already, I was say he was already working on the ship at the drive. That's part of what when she died, right? Like she killed herself because he was not paying any attention to her because he's so focused on his work. So
Yeah.
it's a perfect moment for him, some other intelligence to move in and
Yeah. And
yeah.
I had sort of extrapolating on this whole thing, like, developing some new technology. I'm sure, it's like, I'm reading into this whole thing now where it's like, there was some funding for some corporation or whatever, and, a lot of pressure to perform and to produce something and, having to come up with this new technology. I'm sure there's a lot of false starts and failures and things like that. So, you know, hence the time away from home and the lack of attention to his wife and her spiral out into despair and ultimately, her suicide. So that psychically left him open for something like a malevolent force to potentially invade his thoughts and consciousness and maybe provide him with this hidden knowledge on how to accomplish his goal. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's also you think you can also go one step further about meditating on with intention, like kind of like ceremonial magic or something where you meditate on you put intention into the void and focus on that, and then results come to you. You know what I mean? So that whole thing connects, and I might be just completely way out on a limb and projecting my my own thoughts onto things, but that's what I feel like Weird Story is about that, and this like bizarre Elohim interdimensional drive and the whole design of that gothic room with the black metal spikes and everything is like a manifestation of that whole exercise, you know?
Yeah. Well, if you think about too, like the fallen angels are the ones who taught uh mankind hidden wisdom and stuff like that. So
Exactly. That's what I'm
yeah,
getting at, you know?
yeah,
And and you and I have often, in all of our other discussions, we've talked about how, religion, is a way of describing something that's undescribable, so maybe there's this big idea of hell and all this other stuff that goes on, and maybe this is like just a reflection of that, and it's being interpreted by the feeble human mind into these ideas of angels, devils, and hell and all this stuff.
right. Well, and hell is not even just a purely Christian idea. A lot of people forget that um Japanese, the Chinese, like a lot of cultures believed in these ideas of these like chaos realms,
Yeah,
and that these hells that people would have to travel through and on reincarnation, but they would also kind of be represented as like realms of chaos, And I think that that's what this movie's tapping into, and is that it's like this kind of realm of chaos. It's understood by people as hell, but it's more like Hellraiser, where it's
yeah,
like, angels to some, demon to others, and obviously Hellraiser was an influence on this movie. I mean, you can tell. But I definitely think that when they open that gateway and they go into that dimension, they're essentially like, submitting themselves to these realms of chaos, like kind of like in a Moorcock novel or something, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, totally.
And then those are acting on their bodies. Like imagine like so in this movie you're interacting with a filtered form of the chaos. Like the ship itself has brought that chaos into our dimension. You know what I mean? Like, and is thus by being in our dimension spreading it. Um, but imagine with everything we see in the movie, how much worse it would be if you're actually in the dimension itself, like kind of, I guess in some ways, who knows, being like kind of like warped by it. And, you see these like cut images of like all these like fucked up like things people are doing. The other aspect is that, well, Anderson said that The Shining, the movie, was a huge influence on it. And that part of that was the idea that the ship kind of traps people in the same way that The Shining, the hotel traps people.
Yeah,
And like I said, the idea that the ship itself, by going into this realm of chaos, has become sentient, I think is really cool. It's like kind of similar to the idea of like in The Shining, there's no like the ship, the hotel itself is the ghost, if that makes sense. Like the hotel is possessed, basically, right? Like it's like there's no like consciousness leading it per se. It's like the hotel's like gained its own and you know its own awareness of itself. I feel like that's what the ship is.
exactly. That's kind of the feeling I had too. And the former crew, when they went into this realm of chaos, like destroyed themselves. They couldn't exist there. They did all this depraved, things, and ultimately destroyed themselves, ripped their eyes out, like all that sort of stuff.
And then they seem to have been absorbed by the ship to a certain degree. Because there's that one scene where you see like all the blood and everything like covering the walls and everything. It almost makes me feel like the ship like absorbed their flesh or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that too, because like their bodies are gone, really. I mean, there's only
There's
that one floating like guy from the beginning, the guy that's frozen,
yeah, that's
you know,
it.
and that's it. The rest of the crew are gone. So where did they go? Because their essence got absorbed into the material of the ship somehow, you know?
Yeah. Almost like a sacrifice to fuel its own search for self knowledge or something, you know what
Yeah, yeah.
I mean? Like in some like ri ancient ritual or something, you know? Like their life essence was given to the ship itself.
You know what's interesting is the engineer, Justin. He is he goes into two realms of chaos in some ways. Like he first goes into the void of outer space without a suit. Or no, actually, I got it backwards. He goes into that blackness of the drive, which I'm assuming brings you into this realm of chaos.
Yeah, which I always find that scene. I'm like, dude, like, there's no way in hell I would touch that shit. Like, I don't feel bad for him at one bit. Like, it's his own dumbass who like goes and touches it, you know?
Yeah. And I would there's no way I would no way, man. I would just like probably just tell the rest of the crew I found something and then just stay the fuck away from it.
Well, I think it's also trying to represent antimatter, right? Like, I think that's kind of what it's trying to represent.
Yeah. You know, I always liked that the scene where, he gets pulled out and when he regains consciousness and he's like it's coming, like the dark.
Yeah.
I always thought that was so cool. And then, he decides to instead of existing anymore, he wanted to just, you know, it was possessing him to go out into the void of space.
Yeah, and kill himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that poor bastard's still alive at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
So,
he's one of the only
yeah.
survivors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine how much medical treatment he's gonna require.
You know, I've always that happens. You see that a lot in movies where like, some dude goes out into outer space and immediately like he blows up or something. So apparently, if you went into outer space with no spacesuit on, it would take you several minutes to die, actually.
Is that real? I don't really know what the
Yeah.
science of it is.
Yeah, yeah. You wouldn't die right away. Your
Really?
your body would because there's zero pressure, so like your body would blow up to almost like twice its size.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. It's fucked up. It's even more fucked up than what you see in the movies. You know what I
Oh
mean?
wow.
Yeah, but it would take like maybe 3 to 5 minutes for you actually to die. So it's a very, very painful way to die is be
So
vape.
so
Yeah.
so it's not entirely unrealistic that he'd be floating in there for a minute and would still be alive.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if they did research like that, but over constant viewings of this movie over the years, and then also watching other movies where dudes go into outer space without a suit. I actually looked it up. Like I was like, oh, what would happen to you if you actually were in outer space, without a spacesuit, so you wouldn't die right away.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine that though?
No. Well, and you gotta think there's no
Oh,
oxygen either, so you'd be suffocating.
yeah, exactly. You'd be
Yeah.
suffocating, and your body, like the forces inside, the pressure inside your body would cause your body to grow like to like twice as big as it normally is, and then you just pop basically.
Oh, dude, that's brutal. Of course, I don't think anybody's died that way yet, but you know, it'll happen one day, I'm sure.
Well, it's you think about those guys up on the Artemis, and like we watching Event Horizon, space travel is like very, fundamental to their society. But you think now we haven't launched anything into space for decades. Now the Artemis guys are up there. And it's like there's no guarantee you're coming home, man.
You know? Yeah, I mean, outside of the stuff with like the space station, um, you know, like the International Space Station, we haven't really sent people out into space in the same way, like and so those guys in Artemis were the first, and they went the furthest too, because they I mean, I watched a video about it earlier today actually, and it's pretty crazy. I mean, they took photos of the dark side of the moon,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. But yeah, I mean, yeah, those guys like there was definitely no. I mean, they're testing all that shit out now, like and I guess like the plan is next year they're gonna send another ship, another crew to go around the moon again In 2028, they're planning on landing on the moon finally again, which is pretty crazy. Like, it's crazy we haven't done it in so long, you know?
Yeah, there's always conspiracy theories as to why we never went back and all that sort of, there's aliens there and, hidden bases and stuff like that.
Yeah. The Yeah, I think I mean it seems from my understanding of is that they were like at that point of technology that we're at, we just couldn't do that much more with going to the moon. You know what I mean? There was like only so much you could do at that time. So with technology now though, but I mean a lot of that technology from the 70s is crazy. Like, I was watching something out of Voyager 1. I mean that shit was like sending back data, still sending back data, you know, about I mean can't send pictures, but it can send back data about like, you know, magnetic wave fields and stuff like that in space, you know?
That's like one of the most terrifying things for me to think about, and I think about this all the time, is just like the infinity of space, or what's the edge of the universe. Like there's always different theories about the expanding universe. And there are some theories where the universe will just keep expanding until there's like total entropy and there's just like the heat death of everything and there's no energy anymore. That's like probably the most brutal concept, really, if you think about it. Everything gets just so far apart that there's no more light particles, there's nothing.
You're right. But I think that the idea of that though is that eventually it would just lead into another Big Bang. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that the kind of stuff we really have no fucking idea though,
Well,
you
that
know?
that 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 was my next statement, was like these it's like all these people are talking about, these mathematical models and, but can you just, the hubris of mankind to think they understand like the universe in its entirety, it's just, to speak with such confidence on something like that, I think is insane.
Yeah, I agree. Anything when you're speaking about any of that kind of stuff, it's basically just supposition. No matter how great of a mathematical thing it's based off of, you know, science, things change, you know, things get updated, you know. Um, I don't think there's any real certainty with stuff like that because it's just too vast. We barely fully comprehend our own solar system, let alone a galaxy, let alone, you know, a universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, dude, we don't even have a full grasp of what's at the bottom of the ocean, to be honest.
That's true, yeah. The bottom of the ocean is just as mysterious as space. And what's also what's kind of fascinating is that as far as pressure goes, they, you know, the exploring space bottom of the ocean isn't too far different from exploring parts of the space as well. So the oh dude, I watched the thing. Did you know that they landed I sent that video to you. Did you watch that video I sent you about Venus? Like
Yeah,
they,
yeah. I knew you
I
were gonna
had
mention that. Yeah.
I had no idea that the fucking Soviets landed things into Venus to take photos.
Neither did I until you sent me that, man. I was like, holy shit.
And surface of Venus isn't what people th think at all. It's like really fascinating. And it's like just this weird orange, murky, like kind of looks like you're kind of doesn't look too far off from Mars really, but it's like more flat kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts, man.
That shit is crazy. I had no idea they did that. They did it like 3 times or something.
I mean, like the other thing too, man, is like, you know, when you look up into the sky, like if I was like early man, right? And I looked up into the sky, I would never think there'd be other worlds out there. I would just think there's the sun and this thing I'm standing on. And the fact that they really exist is like fucking insane if you really think about it in a way, I mean, yeah, you read a book, you go
But
to you study things, but it's like the fact that there is another other actual planets out there.
well, it's crazy that ancient man knew that there were planets, you know? They knew by looking at the star, looking in the sky, they could tell that those were planets and not other stars. Like they could comprehend that, which I think is really fascinating. Like Babylonian astronomy was like one of the highest,
Well,
so highly developed.
I was thinking more of like a hunter gatherer, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like I definitely know about that, but I mean, if I was just like living in a cave, like foraging and hunting, I would look into the sky and I would never fathom the idea of there being other planets out there, you know. So it's like completely mind blowing to think about landing on these other worlds, you know.
Yeah, it's true. But I do think it's crazy that the ancients knew that they were planets just by the way that they looked in the sky. But I mean, of
Yeah,
course, back then there was zero light pollution, so they could see a lot better than we
yeah,
can
you can
now.
see a
But
lot better for sure. Yeah.
somehow they knew that those are planets, and they somehow also got a lot of the ideas of their makeup correct in like their astrological, the way they saw them astrologically as well, which is pretty crazy. Because the odd thing is the astrological definitions of the planets often correspond quite well to the way the planets actually look,
Yeah,
in terms of
no,
symbol. Yeah, it's
yeah.
crazy. I mean, now we have stuff on Mars that's like shooting back information all the time, which is crazy. Like it's pretty cool. I mean, I find the idea of knowing what's like the whole idea that we kind of know what's on what say the surface of Venus kind of looks like, like stuff like that. I just find that really just impressive. It's one of the more impressive things humans have done, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm full. I wish we did more space travel, but you know, that's it just seems like there's so much knowledge to gain from that.
Well, and I do agree with like, somebody like Carl Sagan when he talks about how like seeing, I remember he wrote the book Pale Blue Dot or whatever, like where it's about like, if you look at stuff in a more cosmic level, in a lot of ways, you have to kind of take less granted, like the Earth we have. You know what I mean? Like in my opinion, we should, because we're looking at things in this cosmic level. You really understand that we're not like the center of the universe.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The but I mean, the thing about science fiction, like for example, like with Event Horizons, like we're so far away from even traveling, as far as they do in this movie. You know what I mean? Like that's just
Well,
not, yeah,
if you this is all supposed to be happening like 10 years from now, basically, at Event Horizon.
yeah. I It's one thing that's real funny about watching science fiction movies from the 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s is that they really thought that we were going to be a lot more advanced than we are. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
What do you think about so, coming from an engineering background and stuff, what do you think of the idea of this gravity drive? Do you think there's any possibility of that being something that could work? Like the whole idea of like bringing two points of space to each other?
I mean, uh, to me, that seems like complete fantasy, honestly. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things they talked about, which the comic book doesn't even get into, is like
It's like a
that,
mini black hole.
yeah, they're creating a black hole, you know, which that, you know, is such a wild force. I mean, I guess conceivably, if you go into a black hole, like you'll come out somewhere else, you know what I mean, in some other part of the universe. But how do you calculate like where you're going to end up? Because you don't have the like physics and mathematics don't work inside the black hole like they do on the outside. You know what I mean?
We don't really understand black holes either. We don't
Nah,
understand what they are at all.
yeah, there's no,
Yeah.
it's a complete void of knowledge, you know. So, I mean, it sounds good, you know,
Yeah.
um, but to actually bend the fabric of space time, I don't see that being within our grasp in the next 10 years.
No.
Yeah.
Although they are making black holes in the
Oh, yeah.
collider thing and
Yeah. The
yeah.
Netherlands or whatever the hell it is. Is that where
Yeah.
it is? The Netherlands, maybe, or
I think
Germany?
it's in France or
France. Yeah.
Switzerland or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they are literally like they've that hydrogen collider or whatever. I mean, they're experimenting with black hole stuff there. So
That doesn't make me feel very, that makes me feel uneasy, you know?
that are making like controlled black holes on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't around the time they turned them on is around when things started really going screwy in this world too. So
Dude, maybe that's maybe we just they were just the world that we know was destroyed, and it's just like another tendril of the multiverse that we're living on right now.
yeah, I don't know because when did that thing get turned on? It was like 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
Like I think
that's
they turned like it was like 2016 or something.
that's when shit really started going south, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd say probably around then. What was that? What is the collider? What is that fucking thing called?
Hadron Collider.
Um, me. There we go. Hadron Collider.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was like the discovery of the Higgs boson particle, which is part of that research. The
yeah, when
God,
did,
the God particle.
yeah. I'm trying to see because it first started doing stuff in um I'm trying to see if they actually ever did the black hole thing. Did they do the black hole thing?
I've always heard that they did, but that now that you mention it, I don't know if that was true or not. Maybe it was just something that you read online about.
Could be. Um, it's hard to say. I'm trying to see what they did here. Uh, I know that they're trying to do stuff with like antimatter, stuff like that. Um, well, I do think that so like it got turned on in 2010 originally, and then the Higgs boson and all that stuff was 2012. And then 2016, I think, is when they did the real upgraded version. So yeah, around then.
Oh man, last 10 years.
Yeah. And then it was shut down for a few years, and then they're like, yeah, so what they're doing smashes atoms in each other. Yeah. Okay, so um yeah. So it said like so the whole black hole thing is a little bit of a myth.
Okay, good. That actually makes me
Yeah.
feel better.
It says that the what they're doing could create a mini black hole potentially, but it would be nothing. But it's like on like up when we're talking mini, we're talking like nano level. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because it doesn't
Sub
like
it's
the
subatomic
density.
level, yeah.
Yeah, like the density of that would suck everything, reality to it basically, like that's kind of like what the whole idea, like an event horizon is like where even light is pulled into the density of the black hole. And that's why it appears to be black.
It would be kind of like fuck like but at the same time they are fucking with real like sub like they're trying to experiment with recreating the Big Bang essentially, you
And
know.
why
They
are we doing this, man? It's like,
you know, so there's like the point with science where scientists like sometimes, like say nuclear bomb, they got so excited about nuclear energy, which is actually a very good thing, but then it got weaponized, right? And then they created the bomb, right? And it's like um this is the thing with science, it's kind of a neutral thing, like it can be used for good or evil.
yeah, I mean, can you imagine what would happen if they could make a black hole, like you could just like weaponize having, mini black holes.
Well, and they would, you
Yeah.
know, it would.
Some fool would decide that, and then that would just like bring about the total apocalypse.
See, that's the thing. Like, let's say like they did like manage to like nail down a way to like create mini black holes, and that could be used in some type of weapon. In fact, you know, that would be that would happen, right?
Yeah.
The process to making weapons is Well, I think like even nuclear power didn't like nuclear power almost like a byproduct of their them building the bomb. They realized that, oh, we could use this to like power things too, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, the motivation was to destroy life as much in a as grand a fashion as possible, and that's how. Oh yeah, by the way, we can boil water and run turbines off this stuff too. We can make superheated steam.
With modern, modern plants, so I mean, I do think even though there, obviously we had those like those meltdowns, I actually a believer that we should invest more nuclear energy in the sense of like modern nuclear power because it can really solve a lot of the problems that we have with power. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Particularly,
I'm all for it actually. Nuclear power.
particularly with like building like all these fucking data centers and everything like that. If we had a couple of these like modern, very, pretty clean and very safe nuclear power plants, they could power a lot of that stuff. It wouldn't be such a big strain on the rest of the power grid, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, as it is right now, the pollution and water consumption and all that sort of stuff is really what's kind of fucking up the environment.
What's insane to me is that a lot of the closures of many nuclear power plants was led by people wanting green energy. And instead, what it's led to is over reliance on coal energy again, and so thus more pollution.
Yeah, a finite supply of material that only, that's not renewable.
Like
Yeah.
in countries like Germany, they shut down a bunch of their nuclear power plants and now like are using mostly coal power plants.
Yeah,
It's
that's
it's like kind of insane. Or like in Scotland where they tore down like forests, ancient forests to put up like wind turbines, which are like the one of the least efficient forms of power possible, you know.
yeah, no, yeah, that's yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, I mean I don't the thing about like if you think about the whole concept of Event Horizon is that it wasn't going to end well. You're building a black hole and you have the hubris to think that you can control it, right?
Yeah, and behind the scenes, is the scientist being manipulated, to go to this realm that the only way you can get there is through a black hole, you know.
Right.
So it is doomed, the whole operation was doomed, and I just like what I liked about I mean the prequel, just how it started on Earth too, you know what I mean? And I just like the first half of that first issue was cool, and then it just went south. Like really the way I would have done, I would like the sequel to go more Doctor Weir, right? And only really the like most of the story should have been told through the captain's perspective.
Yeah,
Because
I
he
agree.
had he had the whole mythology of Christianity and Catholicism in his head already. And his like point of view, I think, because he's the only character you see in the Event Horizon film. You see his visage like on the log tapes of them going crazy, and as the dialogue, tutu me me or whatever the hell it is, and it would have been cool for maybe the story to be told mainly through him. You know, it's kind of like a ensemble cast, and I don't think it really in the prequel it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that well. Because even in the
No.
main film, in the actual film, it's really still Dr. Weir, and it's mainly the Dr. Weir show. He's like kind of
And Lawrence Fishburne, merely, yeah.
yeah, Captain Miller. Yeah. It's Miller and Weir. They're like the opposing forces in the film, you know. And so yeah, I don't know. I just think that there was a real opportunity to do something cool. And maybe I don't know, man. It's like it kind of sold out the idea that Anderson had for the whole film was to write up this prequel where there's a monster in it, and then the monster begets a monster too. He pulls this weird creature out, and this creature starts like, fucking everyone up on the ship.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I
Nah.
think And then the ending was stupid as fuck because basically just like the last like the ending is awful and like just
Yeah,
absolutely dreadful. Like
yeah,
I'm not
and
I it's just like so it's like so stupid that I couldn't. I was like, you guys actually wrote this shit, you know?
yeah.
Like
Every issue, I hoped it would get better too. I remember reading it. Like the first one, I was like, all right, cool. And I'm like, I don't really like this demon here. This is like, but I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'll buy all the other issues and I'll hang in there. And at the end, I was just like, man, what a fucking complete misstep, you know?
yeah, like what I would like to have seen is more, I guess, like Gotti and Barker than what it got. You know what I mean? Like I think that it should have been more like the people going crazy and losing it and becoming warped and like reality warping around them and more psychological, I guess, than a big goopy monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. The monster is really kind of like ridiculous looking, you know?
Yeah. Like and I don't think you needed an entity like monologuing to them
No.
about all the stuff. Like the movie, the ship uses Ware to monologue to everybody, right? But
Yeah.
but it's like possessing him. It's not some
Yeah,
and it's
it's still Weir. It's still Dr. Weir, you know what I mean? It's just that he's like sort of being absorbed by this entity, similar to what happened to the other crew, you know what I mean? Like he's becoming like this like instrument of this malevolent force.
exactly. But the force itself is never actually physicalized, and I think even if you're in the chaos realm, I think it would have been better to not physicalize it into like this like, you know, king demon king thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Eh,
Like even though his design was cool and stuff, I just felt like it just didn't work for me, you know?
well, it's way scarier if like similar like you mentioned like in a sort of Legadian way where he has he doesn't believe in any kind of like gods or anything, but he does believe in this like mechanical force that kind of pushes you know things forward, like in the darkness, the shadow. He talks about this force, and that's kind of like what in the film, that's the vibe I get, is that it's this undescribable force that's creating all these things. And it's dark because it comes from this realm of what's completely alien to us. And
Yeah.
it warps everyone into these like fucked up creatures, and like Weir carved all that stuff into his body. He pulled his own eyes out. Like it's clear. They show Weir gouging his eyes out.
Yeah.
So it's still Dr. Weir, except that he's manifested by this force.
And then later when you see him, um, it's like when he comes back, right? And it's like the ship brought him back, right? Like it's like the ship's used like its ability to manipulate matter, to embody him again, essentially. But it's just it's totally, it's not like, I don't know, it's using, in a way you could ask, is he actually part, like, is he there because they're on like the ship itself, like is like this borderline between, it's like can affect matter in weird ways, right?
Yeah,
I think it's because it's already absorbed him into it.
right, exactly. It's almost like Color Out of Space, how there's this like presence that changes the surroundings. And except, in that case it was an asteroid or this thing that fell out of space.
Yeah.
Um, but also it's like even the hallucinations that everyone has, it's like they see things. And the way I read that now is that how like in life something reminds you of something. Like you'll be going about your day and some impulse or something happens, like some undescribable thing sends you off into this like spiral. It could be good or bad. On the event horizon,
Those things take physical form.
yeah, and it's all bad.
Yeah.
It's all bad. The stuff
Yeah.
that this force motivates you to only see these dark things, And that's with all these hallucinations that everyone was having. Like it conjures up Miller, the guy that he had to leave behind that was burned to death, and like it comes out of your own memories, like your own consciousness. It's not, it's you're creating that, like it's manifesting in your own brain, like it's all part of you.
Yeah.
It's not like there's actual ghosts like stalking around the ship. You're projecting these things. And that's like on the money, man. That's like the scare way scarier than any creature, I think. You know.
Manipulating you to like see stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And that's like, and I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. I don't I really it's something I watch a couple times a year usually. And every time I watch it, it reinforces these ideas I have about it.
Well, I think that it's kind of like it reminds me of Silent Hill as well, where the mistake people make, like say if the movie, for example, is that just they go in like this other dimension. In the original comic book, or not comic, in the original video games, it's this other dimension coming into ours and thus changing our reality. It's not just it's like the things that we're afraid of can take physical manifestation, right? And I think that's what's happening. Like I think the things they're saying are re literally there, you know. It's just like because you're in this kind of weird like in between space, like in this ship, right? It's like on this like reality itself can be affected by the mind, you know,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And because whatever it is coming from almost this kind of unhuman antimatter, you know, just like this very like almost anti-human type of abyssal type of force, it's gonna operate on people with like fear and dread and bring up these horrible things in their minds, you know?
Yeah, and all right, so now the big question I have though is what kind of sequel are you gonna have to this thing?
Yeah. I
Like
don't
what the
know.
hell is Inferno even gonna be about? Is that at the end of the movie the ship's destroyed?
I don't know. Yeah. That's a, I have no idea. The other thing I was thinking about is I do think the ship has a certain amount of consciousness where it is able to manipulate people a little bit. Because if you think about the one woman who's led by the figure of her son to then go drop, like kill herself, basically.
Yeah.
I think that's the ship manipulating her, but it's drawing upon her own stuff that she's probably been projecting earlier in the movie too, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I do think the ship has some type of consciousness. You know, in the same way that The Shining, the hotel has a consciousness, like it knows it wants to eat Danny. You know what I mean? Like, it wants Danny shining, right? And is able to um, manipulate Jack to you know, try to kill him and everything. I think the ship has some sort of consciousness, but I think it's a very alien form of consciousness, you know, that
Yeah.
we don't really know what its goal is. It's never told, it's never explained to you in a movie, like what it wants, you know, what it's doing. It's just very alien and I think that's what makes Event Horizon the movie so great is that it really captures an alien kind of consciousness or something that's truly like unknowable, you know?
Yeah. Now there's always been some speculation and controversy about the ending of the movie. Whether or not they actually were rescued or, is it weird, catching up to them. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I take the movie as literal. Like, I think they literally are like, they are rescued and everything at the end, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, as brutal as Weir is, he's still Dr. Weir. He's not going to teleport,
Well,
you
that's the
know.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think the ship has the capability to like teleport him and, you know, like that, you know? I mean, unless it could be possible that there's some element of the ship's like consciousness in that section of the ship, obviously. Like, but I don't think it's enough to like kill them or something. You know,
Yeah,
I think in the end they are saved. Yeah.
and now they claim that the location of the event horizon is out past Neptune. All right, so that gives you an idea of the scope of whatever civilization that we have. Like that's far away apparently. Like that's like the outer recesses of like the kind of normal operations of these interplanetary voyages they go on, because they even talk about how far away they are.
Yeah.
So like the fact that the escape, you know, pod, the bridge part of the Event Horizon was able to drift into, a place where they would get rescued. It implies that they're pretty far into the known galaxy, the known galaxy.
Yeah. And they turn on a tracking thing as well, I think. So, as long as I mean, as long as they shot forward towards Mars or whatever, probably, like my guess is that it's probably set in a future in which we've at least like have some like colony or something on Mars. And like people don't realize that like Neptune is very, very, very far from Mars. And
Yeah.
like I mean, think about like we're talking about the Voyager earlier. The Voyager, when did it hit Neptune? Was that like in the 80s?
Yeah, like in the 80s.
And it got shot in like the 71? Because
Yeah.
I know in 90 was like right before it exited like when they took the final photos from the Voyager in 1990 was uh right as it was exiting the known kind of bounds of our universe or our galaxy essentially. So it took 20 years for it to get to that point. And that's shooting really, really. I mean, it was traveling pretty fast, like faster than a human ship could travel.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Smith, the guy that's Sean Pertwee's character,
Hmm.
he talks about going to Mars, actually.
Oh,
You
does
know,
he? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's like, at least there's women on Mars.
That's
So,
right. He does say that. Yeah. Yeah, I get the feeling like the Event Horizon was supposed to be like something where they finally go to another galaxy. Like where they're going to go to like Alpha,
out,
or is it Betelgeuse or
it
something?
was Proxima Centauri,
Proxima Centauri. That's like the closest star system next to ours, right?
and that's still 4 point. I have it written down here. 4.246 light years away, man. That's still fucking far, man.
Yeah, there's like literally almost no way we'd ever get there. I mean, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Not unless they do develop like a light speed drive, like in like Star Wars or some shit.
Well, the only thing, like like all these like IAPs, like these claims that people make of these gravityless like flying objects,
Hmm.
that would be the only way. If you can have something that gravity doesn't work on, and then you could accelerate past the speed of light, probably. That means that
Yeah,
your mass would be zero if, gravity, like, so one of those terms would have to go to zero for you to be able to break away from gravity.
yeah. I mean, I have seen some crazy UFO shit in the sky that's traveled in weird ways. So
You have
yeah, I have. Yeah,
out there in Colorado.
yeah.
I'm not
Like
surprised, dude.
yeah. Up in it was in the last big one I saw was 2020. It was like outside smoking a cigarette, and I was like looking up, and I saw something like dart from like. I saw something and all of a sudden went like left to right like this, like all weird, and then it shot straight up into the sky. Like I was like, well, that's not normal. And I've seen stuff like that a few times in my life. So
Now, do you think that's actually some secret government shit?
I don't know. I mean, that's the question, is it?
Yeah.
Could be. Um,
Or like, like they talk about, Area 51 and, alien technology and back engineering, like reverse engineering. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff like that people talk about.
yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, like, if like say if you take if stuff is real, like say what Roswell actually happened, like and they've been trying to work on some secret shit for the last 70 years. I mean, it's possible. I know Area 51 for sure. They are definitely testing very, very secret like ships and stuff like the people who, because there was that one guy. I was listening to the haunted objects where they were talking about the one guy who was like the Area 51 watchdog guy who like put out the pamphlets for how to like watch the base and stuff like that. Like
Oh,
and
right. Yeah, yeah. I forgot that guy's name. I know
yeah,
who you're talking about.
he's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he would actually sit up on this like ridge where he could look down into Area 51 and like monitor them and all that stuff. Like he was obsessed with it. And I understand that there's some weird stuff that you see flying around there, but I don't know if they're like flying saucers or shit, but um yeah, I mean it's it's questionable, you know. I don't know. I mean my dad said he saw a triangle shaped ship like land in the swamps in Florida and then shoot straight up into the sky. And that was in the 60s, you know. So or 70s, I think. Um So I definitely believe there's something out there. You know, something's going on. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen anything firsthand that's I can verify as being like, a UFO or anything like that.
yeah,
Um,
I've seen a few like here and there stuff that like it just acts in such a way that you're like that really can't be a plane. Like something like moving like real suddenly like that, like darting and then just shooting up into the sky and kind of like it looked like it literally just shot up like out of our atmosphere, like in a straight up like and so I've you know that's not something that you're gonna see like you know that's not like a satellite or something, you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
Because I have you know sometimes satellites throw people off but they usually move in a more like you know straight like they move in a straight way, you know, like satellites don't like dart back and forth. um Planes don't, helicopters can't do that. um Yeah, I don't know. One time I did see like something that I thought was a UFO thing, but it turned out it was something to do with Starlink or whatever the fuck that is.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Because
That
he's
Elon Musk thing. Yeah.
yeah, because it was like just like these rows of dots, like there's like two of them hovering above like the mountains, and they're like straight like rows of lights basically just hovering, and then they just kind of like faded, and I mean, it still was weird as fuck. I don't know, you know. But KR from Obsidian Shrine posted a picture of it. He's like, "Does anybody know what the fuck this is?" Like
Oh,
he had it
jeez.
happen in Kentucky, the same thing. I was like, "Dude, I saw that too here." And he's like, apparently some bullshit from like Starlink or Elon Musk is doing something. So it's like, well, whatever it was weird as fuck. Because just
Damn.
imagine all these like perfectly straight hovering lights up in the sky. Like it's weird. Yeah.
That's fucking nuts, man. Yeah. So are you going to check out this Inferno sequel or what?
Well, I already have it. I already have it on my to be put in my box. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
I mean, I got pretty low expectations for it.
yeah, me too. I put it on my box before I finished the Dark Descent, like when I first found out about it. So I already have it on order. So I was like, well, I'll write it out. We'll see what happens. I'm not, you know, like to me, like I just don't know I don't know what you're gonna do exactly. But I think the problem is in this comic, they literally show at the end like the fucking entity thing fixing the event horizon,
Yeah, I don't need that, man.
which was like so idiotic that I just
Yeah.
like yeah. So that means they could do anything they you know they I just feel like it's just like totally like ridiculous, you know?
Yeah. I don't back it. So I
No,
don't consider Dark Horizon to be like canon.
canon,
Yeah,
no.
with the movie. The movie stands alone. Doesn't need a sequel, doesn't need a prequel.
Although I know they're making a movie of some sort. That's like both
Is
things.
that verified?
I mean, I saw something about it, so
Yeah. Shit. I hope it's not like a reboot of it or anything like that. Like I hope it's not a remake of that movie because that movie's perfect the way it is.
no, what I had read was that it's supposed to be both a prequel and a sequel at the same time.
How the fuck? How is that? How is this? How could it be a prequel? And who would write something like that?
I don't know. It's a good question, but so we'll see if it actually happens. I don't know if it's not in develop. I don't know if it's like in like full on development where they're like about to film it, you know. But uh,
I mean, the only way it would work is if someone completely different took like Weir's calculations and rebuilt another drive, and then it had a whole other movie.
That's to me that if you're gonna do a sequel, the only way that works for me is that is the same thing. Yeah, like
Yeah, I mean,
somebody else like trying to create the thing that Ware created. Yeah.
yeah, like that could be cool because like maybe there's someone who's like, whatever happened to Dr. Weir? And then some guy is like obsessed with his story and finds his notebooks and everything, and like,
Yeah.
and that could be cool. That could be cool if it's all told in the first person or something, and then chronicles his like descent into insanity, you know.
Yeah. And then like the trip of this new ship that tries to figure go where Event Horizon went, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a cool story. But that, hopefully, if they do make this film, that's what they choose to do instead of making it like the, further adventures of Dr. Weir,
Yeah, I mean, you just can't really do much with I mean, like, what are you gonna do? Like, literally, the gravity drive went into the other dimension and it's just there, you know. Um, like you can't pilot it or do anything because the front half isn't part of it anymore. You know,
Yeah,
like it just doesn't make any sense. So the only way that a sequel would make sense if it is like people traveling and then going into the chaos realm. And then you have to hope that they tell the story better than what they did in this comic book, you know, of people going
yeah.
to that chaos realm, you know.
Or this guy like is going over Weir's calculations or whatever. And he's like, oh, I found an error in his calculations, and now this is the right way to do it. And you know, like a story like that might be interesting. Where he
Right.
thinks he did a better job at creating this drive, but it's just the same manipulation. You know what I mean?
But it's just a better drive of bringing the chaos into our realm or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would be really cool. You know?
Yeah. Oh, and it could be set in like down the future, like 20, 30 years in the future. And basically being like the um like people thinking, well, we can do it better now. We have better technology and everything. So they build an event horizon too, you know what I mean?
And also, like, it'd be cool to see like his the notes and stuff where it's like showing all these like it's calculus and like differential equations and all this stuff. But then like there's these pages of like runes and sigils and you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
where he has to like to get the full picture, there's like some arcane, occult knowledge he has to tap into.
Well, you know that mathematics was always connected to the esoteric
Yeah,
and
no, I
you know,
100% I know
like
that. Yeah.
a lot of modern mathematical like um symbols and everything aren't two steps away or drawing upon ancient, occult like symbols and her astrolog, people
Oh yeah.
still use like astrological symbols for like mathematical symbols
Yeah,
and
oh
stuff like
dude,
that, like
I'll show you my notebooks I have here, man. Like my shit for work is all fucking symbols and constants and things like that. Yeah.
well, and then in a lot of alchemical and hermetic concepts, there's the idea that mathematics can show you the root, like the actual makeup of reality, right? That like through, and a lot of mathematicians think that as well. They think that through mathematics we can actually somehow tap into like the very essence of creation and the um discover like just like it's like a mystical like a lot, like higher mathematics is a mystical
Yeah. Yeah. It's
thing
like that Aronofsky film Pi kind of touches on that too.
and touches on the kind of obsession that people get and yeah and so like it would make sense to that those things are there's a thin border between mathematics and the esoteric, right? And the hidden and the occult,
Yeah, I mean that should be explored more, I think, in fiction, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's like how like maybe scientists get led into that path more.
Yeah, like I would like to see that kind of stuff like I because I do think that the thing with like scientists I think could be you could say could be very good prey for certain types of entities because they don't believe in them and they have a lot of hubris about like how they can like master everything and
Yeah.
know everything makes it very easy for some type of thing like that to lead them down into like, yeah, like put this stuff together and make a bomb so that you know. Then you think about like Twin Peaks to Return and the idea that the bomb opened up some type of like dimensional rift
Yeah.
and Judy came it through and all these like entities seeking Garmazol and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Like it's like was where those entities reaching out from beyond the abyss, like trying to like lead people into creating the bomb so they could like come through the portal, you know? So it's something like Event Horizon. It's like these like entities, these kind of abyssal entities are there like whispering in his ear to like leading him so that they could open a gateway into our dimension, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we earlier on we were talking about these scientists who have these cosmology ideas about, oh, well, the universe is expanding definitely, or there's like it's being propelled by dark matter, like how the fuck do you know? Or it's like it's like what we were saying, like to have that kind of to be 100% sure that you're right about that is beyond like comprehension to me in some ways. So someone who has that belief in themselves that they've mastered something could be appealed to and manipulated by an evil force to do something, I think.
Definitely. But that's the kind of point where science there, there's a form side of science which becomes religion, like
Yeah.
people call it scientism. It's definitely like a thing, like you see people, and it's actually kind of it's kind of gotten worse in the scientific community, I think, over the past 20, 30 years, like in some aspects. Um, and it definitely leads people to thinking this, but the scientific community always has a hard time with certain things, like, it's hard for them to just like it's like the kind of crazy people who have like the ideas that no one else thinks usually end up like pushing science forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But the rest of the community has such a hard time accepting any of that kind of stuff. Like thinking outside of like what they've been led to believe, you know what I mean? That's why the scientific community, for example, can take 20 years to, somebody can say something like find certain things. Maybe it's not based on like, obviously, like with the way the community works, it has to like be verified and all this stuff. Like it's the nature of the thing. But the byproduct is it also creates a closed form of thinking where they're like, you know, for a long time people were thinking that all life had to exist as only form of life that could exist in any form was something based off of carbon and oxygen, right?
Yeah.
But then they found living things and like the vents, like volcanic vents and shit like
Right.
that
Yeah.
are existing who are not like almost non-carbon based like life entity things that can exist like in this fucking and so that leads you to believe that there could be weird forms of life on Venus or something like that that we just you know but a lot of scientific community have a hard time with that because they're like they had like this kind of idea that there's only carbon based or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about, like a lot of things are possible in the universe and I think it's best to not like get too dogmatic in your viewpoints, no matter what you are, you know?
Yeah, totally. All right, man. So that was a fun talk on Event Horizon, among other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went, went off on the, yeah. I've been watching a bunch of like fucking space videos too ever since I watched the movie. So it's like, I don't know. There's something about the movie like really hit that note in me.
Yeah. No, totally. But thanks for joining us this evening. And yeah, we've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm glad we finally got around to it.
Yeah, because you've covered Event Horizon with Evan like a while back on Patreon, but yeah,
Yeah, and we've done it on Necromaniacs probably 8 years ago or something. You know what I mean? It's
yeah, it's a
something
long
that
time.
I keep talking about this fucking movie, man. And like the funny thing too is like I wonder if it really holds up as well. Like if someone had never seen this before and they watched it, what they would take away from it, you know?
I think it holds up. I think the effects are in general pretty solid still. I think the concepts are solid. I think it's a pretty creepy movie. I mean, yeah, I don't know, but I would hope it would hold up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to me it does. So I guess that's all that really matters for me at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
It's definitely a 90s Late 90s sci-fi movie, but I have a big soft spot for sci-fi stuff from around this time,
Yeah.
like Starship Troopers and
Oh yeah, that's a classic, man.
yeah, Johnny Mnemonic and The Matrix and all that kind of stuff that came out in that time period. I mean, there's so many great movies.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for hopping on, and
Oh
we'll
yeah,
talk soon, man.
sounds good, dude.